City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 21st. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heather, will you please take the roll call?
Councilmember Bachmann.
Here.
Mayor Beaton.
Here.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Here.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Here.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Here.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Here.
City Manager.
Here.
City Attorney.
Here.
DPW Director.
Here.
Finance Director.
Here.
Police Chief.
Here.
Fire Chief.
Here.
City Engineer.
Here.
Roll call complete.
Thank you. Public hearings, we have none. Citizens' comments on agenda-related items. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on agenda-related items only. Citizens in attendance shall be recognized by the mayor for comments limited to 5 minutes. Letters submitted to council will not be publicly read. Do we have any public that would like to come forward? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All agenda items marked with an asterisk are on the consent agenda and considered by the city manager to be routine matters. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, any member of council may have an item from the consent agenda removed and taken up during a regular portion of the meeting. Consent agenda items include approval of minutes, payroll, invoices, notification regarding next work session. At this time, council could take action to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Unfinished
Oh,
business.
I'm going to take
Oops,
roll.
Roll
quick.
call.
Councilmember Bachmann.
Yes.
Mayor Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Unfinished business, we have none. New business. We are going to switch A and B in their order. Presentation by Ken Talsma of Anderson Tackman on the June 30th, 2021 audit.
I'd like to thank the council for having me here to present the 2021 audit and its results. So the city, as it has in prior years, has had to have a financial audit or an accounting and auditing of all of its finances and make sure that it follows the different state and federal rules as far as accounting and state laws and compliance with all of those. Also, because of the federal assistance you've received, both through grants as well as federally backed loan programs that you're in, like the sewer loans that they're getting from USDA, that requires an additional audit of the federal money and the federally backed loans that you receive, which we also give an opinion on. So you get two opinions, one on the financial statements and one on the federal grants and how you've spent those and used those during the year. With their audit, we always give one of four types of opinions. We give either an adverse, which means there's a differences between the evidence we found and the numbers in the financials, or discrepancies that can't be resolved. There's disclaimer when there isn't information available. There's also a modified, which means perhaps one area is weak, like maybe the capital asset records and depreciation, but everything else is fine. And last is the unmodified, which means everything was done properly as it should be, and that's what the city received for 2021 is the unmodified opinion on the statements, meaning everything was done as it should be, and we were able to get evidence to support everything. So as far as the evidence we look at, there's a lot under there that could be invoices, backup for receipts, a lot of payroll records. We also look at third-party information. We send confirmations to every bank you do business with, confirming every account, confirming debts with the different debtors you have. Also will confirm large receivables payable, make sure that everything corroborates what's in the financial information. And we'll test transactions to make sure that those are done in accordance with the internal control system rules that the state recommends as far as checks and balances, as well as approvals and required documentation to make sure that all that is done to their liking as well. So at the end of that, we give our opinion, making sure that we didn't find any significant problems. And again, in 21, we didn't have any significant issues with the audit and its findings. So that gives you the unmodified opinion on the financial statements. Also, we talked about the federal money received and the federally backed loans. We audited those because they were, I think, around $5+ million that the sewer received in federally backed loans for the sewer improvements. That turned out fine, no issues in the administration of the federal funding this year. You also received different grants, I think through Humanities, as well as coronavirus grants through the Department of Treasury, and some others, smaller amounts too. But the federal administration was done fine as well. Next, I've got a packet of graphs. Kind of will show the highlights of the finance over the course of 21. So the first page shows the assets of the city. This is the whole city combined. Looking at the last 2 years. And overall, the cash has gotten a bit stronger in both restricted and unrestricted. Reason of that is I think we had some refinancing with debt during the year on a couple issues, as well as we've had the continued debt for the sewer improvements too. So we've had some of that money that's drawn down that will be utilized for additional capital projects moving into the future too, that I think is sitting in some of these cash accounts, kind of boosting it a little bit at the end of this year. Investments, pretty more comparable. Receivables due from governments, prepaids, pretty level. Capital assets bumped up a bit from 42 million to 46. And this is one of your biggest categories. As with most cities, a lot of your stuff that the city owns is tied up in its infrastructure. It's water, sewer systems, and street systems are some of the biggest things, as well as you have land, building, and equipment too. Then you also have deferred outflows. And on the next page, we'll talk about you have the pension liability and deferred inflows. And these three things run together relating to the pension obligation. And the inflows and outflows are kind of like gains and losses relating to the pension obligation that get recognized over more than 1 year's period of time. So that's why they exist, to kind of hold those and write them off based on when the actuaries think they will affect the pension liability. So the second page now will show the liabilities, accounts payable being up again with all the different capital projects going on. As biggest is the sewer project. End of the year, ending in June 30, you can still have a lot going on in the construction season, creating higher payables. Accrued liabilities first, the accrued payroll taxes and such stayed pretty comparable, down a little bit. Customer deposits bumped up a bit to 273,000. Leases stayed pretty level, and then notes payable actually went down from 1.7 to 1.3. You have a lot more probably tied up in bonds payable, but the notes payable didn't have anything new this year, just the continued payoff of the existing ones, so that went down. Continuing on with your liabilities, we said the bonds payable, we had 2 refinancing of existing debt, bumping that up, as well as $5 million for the sewer fund too. So we had more going on with bonds payable. The pension liability stayed pretty flat, which is a good thing. You're around, I think, 74% funded, which is a pretty good measure. The state looks at if you're below 60 as a place to be concerned about it's being funded. So you're above that threshold, so that's a good place to be. Your OPEB liability, which is pretty level, which isn't too significant of a liability. OPEB is retiree medical insurance, which for some communities can be a lot bigger number. For your community, it's not too big of an obligation, $24,000. Then you have vested employee benefits, which is the sick and vacation time for employees that's been accrued and that they're paid out as when they leave employment. Stayed pretty level. And then we also have deferred inflows, which are like deferred gains relating to the pension obligation, which has bumped up quite a bit to $648,000. And again, with these outflows and inflows, when the actuarial companies update your pension information and what they think your obligation is, they look at several things and demographics of the people in the plan, their age, their lifestyles, their the return on investment, the time value of money. And they'll look at also, sometimes they have changes in assumptions, changes in experience with the plan, changes with the investment return, and some of these things they think don't necessarily just hit the bottom line in the 1 year. It affects several years, like more relating to the service time of the employees in the pension plan, so they'll allocate it maybe over 2, 3, 5 years, so that's why it gets deferred. But eventually it's written down against the payroll or the pension liability. Next graph shows the net position or the net worth of the city. In the categories you have investment capital assets, so largely this is the value of all that infrastructure capital assets. Then it's offset above against all the debt that's against it. And again, we have quite a bit more debt issued this year, causing a little bit of a shift. Restricted is usually the different programs and funds of the city that are paid by specific things like millage money, grants, things that are for a particular purpose. So if there's anything remaining at the end of the year in these funds, it's got to be earmarked for that particular purpose moving forward and budgeted for it, for that particular thing. It can't be used for general use. It's got to stay kind of intact for whatever the special purpose is. And then unrestricted is the general amount that can be used for the day-to-day operations of the city, and that got quite a bit better, landing about $9 million. The next graph is the revenues of all the government funds, which is the general and the street funds, kind of showing its tax revenue, licenses, federal, state monies, local sources. Everything was pretty comparable. Taxes is one of the bigger things. It's just been, I think, doing continued well because of the strength in the tax base here within the city. I think no new changes to the levy amounts or anything, just the base is doing better. Then the other thing that's jumped up a lot is the interest and rents, which largely holds the interest and gains relating to the oil and gas fund. So anytime that fund continues to do well with all of its different investments in that permanent fund, that those gains and those interest earnings get recognized in that category. So I had quite a bit of a boost this year. And then we have other revenues for usually a bunch of the smaller things like refunds, donations, and things like that. Next, we have the expenditures of the government funds. Legislative, which is city council or commission. General government, which is the general offices of the city. Public safety, which holds the police, fire. Public works, which is DPW. Last year, I think we had some more infrastructure done with the street funds, more than we did this year, so we kind of had a 20 for that. And then more comparable expenditures in 21. Then recreation and culture, other expenditures, pretty level. Capital outlay, we had quite a bit more done in this area this year. Capital outlay holds usually things like construction with buildings, big equipment purchases, and those things for anything capital. And then debt service also bumped up a bit to 1.8 from about 640,000 last year. And with that, when we had these refinancing, we had one in the government area and then one in the business or the water sewer fund area. When that debt is extinguished, the whole thing gets paid off and run through the books, and then the refinanced amount also comes back in as like as a proceed. So you kind of have to show the whole thing leaving and coming back on in that process. So that bumped that up. Page 7, we have the revenues of the water and sewer fund, the biggest business or enterprise type fund for the city. Those charges being really pretty flat between the last couple of years, even compared to the third year. Interest, rents, other revenues also pretty even. State grants, not too much going on in that area for the sewer fund, water and sewer fund in the last couple of years. And then page 8 shows the expenditures. Personnel services, which largely holds the salaries, fringes for people in the plan, in the fund. Contracted services, insurances. Insurances, I think, got it broken out on its own this year, which usually it was held, I think, in the next page over, so that was kind of gotten big enough that it can be displayed on its own. Then you have administrative costs, you got equipment rental, supplies. Continuing on page 9 with the expenditures. Shows what's paid in utilities, repair and maintenance of the system, depreciation. Again, because you have a lot of infrastructure, there's a lot of depreciation on that capital infrastructure. Miscellaneous, I think the insurance used to be under miscellaneous, again, that broke out, so that's why the increase there and a decrease under miscellaneous. And then interest, again, went up because of the refinancing and that with the water and sewer funds, landing at about almost 600,000. Then the last graph shows the fund balance of the general fund. Again, the general fund's the most important, kind of the biggest heart fund of the city. We always are more concerned about its fund balance. It had a little bit of a bump this year from 20 to 21 of about, landed at about 1.8 million. So it landed at a healthy place. There's no rule or law saying that your fund balance has to be so high or so low. The state of Michigan, if you go negative, even if it's $1, they won't have it. It can never be negative. Only the federal government can have a negative fund balance in their funds. But so the state's thing, as long as it's to the good, to the positive, they're happy. Other measures of it, I think the U.S. Finance Officers Association, which is kind of a nonprofit organization for municipalities, they came up with a rule of 10 to 15% of next year's budgeted expenditures to be a good floor as you do the budget and as you're working each year, to make sure your fund balance never goes below that 10 to 15%. If you keep it there, you're probably in one of the safest places. Some places may want to be a little bit higher because maybe you have some projects you've been saving up to do, or maybe you have some additional needs, or maybe you have some unforeseen expenses or something to deal with, so you may feel you need to keep it higher. But they at least always recommend that floor. Don't go below that. That can be kind of more risky than you'd want to live with. So this year, I think you're around 17-18%. So you're still pretty close to that 15%. So in a good, safe place. And two, I think dealing with the pandemic the last couple of years, it's good we've weathered, the storm with that and kind of been able to keep the city in a healthy place. So I think a good audit. I say financially, things, say pretty level and consistent in spite of everything going on. So, any questions about the graphs or any of the numbers?
I'm looking around to see if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, and I think I wrote a question down here. Oh no, you explained it. I was wondering about that. I think you said insurance or something. Yeah, the insurance number that was now placed by itself.
Right, out of them. Used to be miscellaneous.
Okay, that's it. No, I don't have any.
I think overall, pretty good audit. Again, dealing with these difficult last 2 years, and even with your budgeting, everything seems to stay within the right levels. You're staying within your means, not overexpending in any of the areas, funds or departments. None of the fund balances are deficit, which the state doesn't like. Your pension plans, at a decent level for being funded. So a lot of in your tax base is getting a little bit healthier each year. So all these things kind of, I think, lead to saying that you're staying in a healthy place. So
a ton of data and exhaustive, and I don't envy you and Mr. Bradford having to work together getting all that done, but it's a lot and it's impressive. So thank you for all that work.
You're welcome. And I would thank the finance director and all the city staff for all their work. And again, it is a lot of data, a lot of information. I mean, a lot of things we ask and re-ask because, we'll ask different people the same question because everybody's got to make sure everybody's on the same page and the understanding of policies and how things are done and approvals. So we put people through a lot, but it's, it's for the greater good of making sure everything's done right and we all come out to the same right answers. So we appreciate everybody's hard work.
Well, we appreciate your company's efforts. That's great. We're happy to see you back.
Thank you.
Have a clean report. Mr. Bradford, would you have any comments you'd like to add at all?
Just briefly, I just want to thank Ken and his crew for coming in a timely fashion. They get in, they get out. It's very little disruption at all, so we're happy to work with them. I think this is going on year 7 maybe.
Yeah.
It's been a while, so it works good. And they always have different auditors come in, which is nice because it gets a fresh set of eyes on the books and stuff. So even though we have the same firm, we have different people looking at the numbers. And I'm just looking forward to, continuing to have clean audits and, we'll be back again next year at the same time. So thank you, man. Appreciate it.
And thank you, Ed, because you were wearing dual hats at that time. Well, I appreciate your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thanks again.
And the only thing I would add too is it's a lot of information at one time. If there's ever any point during the year you have any questions or thoughts, I can get you in contact with us. And if you think there's anything else we need to be looking at or any concerns, we're open to what you have to say. So, or any other questions.
Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay.
With that, we'll move on to consideration of the annual audit committee report, which is now B. The council audit committee is established by section 23 of the city council guidelines. This section spells out the duties and responsibilities of the committee. As part of its responsibilities, the audit committee prepares a written report on how the committee discharged its duties and responsibilities. At this time, council could take action to accept the annual report of the council audit committee. Ed, would you like to say anything about that?
Sure. So I think there was a memo report in your packet that described the work that the audit committee did. They met one time this year to review the draft audit remotely with Ken and went through the audit in more detail than he did tonight, obviously, explaining things. And there was a lot of questions that were asked and answered. So I think the audit committee did a nice job. At times, and we offer this up, if they want to come in and have any pre-meeting, like before a field starts, to express concerns to Ken or have things that they want to look at. In the past, sometimes that's happened. We didn't do that this year. There was really no concerns expressed. So, but it's good to have council look at those things. And we do follow the best practices that are put out by the Government Finance Officers Association as to what audit committee should be and what they should focus on. That's what the guidelines that the audit committee uses are. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion, we accept the report.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry,
Councilmember-
any discussion? Any discussion before we take the roll call? None? Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Bachman.
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Mayor Beaton.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Moving on to C, consideration of approving a quote to complete emergency repairs to well number 6. Well number 6 is the largest production well in the city water system. Annual pump test inspections have shown a decrease in pumping capacity. An inspection and cleaning were budgeted to be completed this winter. Before the inspection took place, the pump motor failed. While extracting the pump motor, the contractor inspected the well. The condition of the well requires extensive equipment replacement in place of cleaning. At this time, council could take action to approve the $77,435.16 quote from Peerless Midwest, Inc. to complete the emergency repairs to well number 6.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion.
And it said that we had money set aside for repair and maintenance and cleaning. How much was the repair and maintenance portion that we had set aside?
So on all 4 of our municipal wells, we do pump tests late every season, and we compare those against what the pump tested the previous years and against what it was originally rated at. And so we're able to predict when the well screens are starting to get plugged with mineral deposits and so forth. The pumping rates start to fall off. So our expectation this year was that we would need to pull the well, have it, televised and inspected, and that there would need to be some cleaning, and typically there's some repair parts. So I believe we had $38,000 budgeted in the operating budget. Like the agenda item said, before we were able to schedule that work, the pump motor completely failed. And that's a separate part of what we had budgeted for. We do have a backup motor, and we had that reconditioned probably 5 years ago, and it's been sitting in case this happened. So we had Peerless come in, pull that motor, took the backup motor. While they were analyzing the condition of that and what it would take to do those repairs, since the well was out of production, we had them go down and do the televising, and they found that it was not a cleaning issue that was required. It was a lot of the casing, the pump bowl, and a lot of the actual hardware and pieces that need to be replaced. So it's about twice as much as what we were hoping for a cleaning.
So this is about $41,000 over what you had expected to spend on this well? About that? Okay.
Correct. And I think we can absorb that within the operating budget. We'll probably need to defer a couple items, but we'll do our best to work it in and get through this operating budget.
I'm just curious, we have, I guess, 6 wells. So this well in particular, what area of the city did it service?
We actually have 4 wells.
Okay.
The wells were originally numbered starting with 1. And well 6 is our largest production well. Well 7 actually has been taken out of service and plugged. And we have well 8 and 9. So 6, 8, and 9 are all down by the high school. At the end of Tamarack actually turns into Hadsell Street when it crosses the city limits at 12th Street. So 6, 8, and 9 are there. 6 is the largest production well. And then well number 10 is out on the airport property in Manistee Township.
Okay, so is there any way to tell, I'm just curious, what area of the city well number 6 services? Or how does that work?
So the way that the water department typically runs the wells is they will put one well in lead and 1 well in lag. But well 10 is usually always tied to the elevations in the industrial tank water tower. So if there's a lot of consumption on the north side, it'll trigger that well to turn on. And then the Maywood tank is tied to wells 6, 7, and 8. And we usually only have 2 wells that are turned on or in auto at a time. And what we do is we rotate the operation of those wells to spread the wear and reduce maintenance. And also underneath the wells, underneath wells 6, 8, and 9, there's a chloride plume at the bottom of that aquifer. So if you run, say, number 6 constantly for 7 days a week, you actually have a conical draw of the chlorides that will come up into the water column. And by rotating them, it allows that uptake to then settle back down before it cycles back on in 3 more days. The difference would be if we've got a water main break, both wells may be running. If we've got a fire flow situation, they may have both wells operating. So the water department they make those modifications on a daily basis.
Okay.
So,
Question, Jeff, if I could, I'm sorry. This week and the last week, you had presentations about things that had broken.
Mm-hmm.
You said you had some pictures of this casing. It would be helpful in the future if you'd add some pictures. Like, I didn't know really what that sidewalk plow, well, I think I do, but I'm not sure what the sidewalk plow looked like. It'd be nice to have some pictures of what we're gonna buy.
Okay,
Would be great, and the well casing broke would be great.
sure.
Number 2, was there a water main break on Babel Street by City Hall?
Last
Next
week.
week? Was that a big, was that a big event, or was that a?
It was just cracked. I believe they had to isolate it a block and a half, and were able to make that repair the same day.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
so I was just curious, you said that 6, 8, and 9 are over by the high school and 6 failed. So does that mean that 8 and 9 have only been once running, or what do you do now that 6 is?
8 and 9 are rotating.
Okay.
So one day 8 runs, tomorrow 9 runs, and back and forth.
6 is not doing anything at all right now? 'Cause
Right now, it is inoperable.
Okay.
I thought you put a pump back in it, you said?
No, we sent the motor
Oh.
back with Peerless,
Okay.
And so they have to do some swapping out and a little bit more work to that, and that's included in the paperwork. It probably saved us, by having a backup motor, it probably saved us another $10,000-$20,000.
I have a question.
Sure.
So are we just spending an extra 41,000 or 77,000? If we already budgeted 38,000?
We'll use the 38,000 that was budgeted for this project, and then there will be an additional $41,000 that we'll need to spend within the operating budget.
Okay, but it doesn't really read like that though. Because it kind of reads like we're taking action to approve the 77,000 quote to complete the emergency repair. That's not how it reads.
The budget money.
So should we change that?
So the quote to do all the work
That's what.
is 77,000.
But that's not how it reads because we already budgeted the 38,000 before.
Right. What we need the council to approve is that quoted amount, which is 77,000. The way that it's funded will be 38,000 that was already a line item in the budget, and then there's an additional 41,000 that will come from other places within the operating
Right,
budget.
I totally get that, but that's not how it reads on this. So when people are looking at that, it looks like we're agreeing to approve another $77,000 is what I'm saying. If I'm not reading that correctly,
When he puts it in the paper tomorrow, it reads.
it reads that we're agreeing to pay another 77,000 on top of the 38,000. That's what I'm saying is it doesn't.
Got it?
Yeah, it's 40,000 more than like for these.
40.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it looks
Just under 40.
bad, like we're agreeing to pay another 77,000 on top of the 38 that we already agreed to spend. Like, I think it just needs to be carefully worded a little bit differently than.
I understand. Yeah, I put more detail in the
Just
back.
because when I read it, I'm like, oh my God, here we go again, another $80,000. Like, and I just want to bring up just one little thing about what Dave was talking about, like things breaking down. Like, I understand about the truck issue, like things break down. I think that, like when that truck broke down in the summertime, like it should have been brought to our attention then that it broke down in what it was, not brought up in December that it broke down and we need to replace it. So we are aware that it, we're gonna have to figure out solutions so we're not like, here we go again, another $80,000. So I think that if it's worded differently, like if we already have $40,000 budgeted, it should just be worded, hey, we already have this budgeted, we're gonna have to up it another 41,000 for a total of this, and then everybody's on the same page.
Okay.
So I think it would be a lot easier and just not create a lot of confusion.
I don't have any more questions. How about you? Anybody down there? Thank you, Jeff. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bachmann.
Yes.
Mayor Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of authorizing the Manistee Fire Department to pursue the 2021 Fema grant for a 100-foot aerial platform apparatus. The City of Manistee Fire Department is pursuing a Fema grant for the purchase of a 100-foot aerial platform apparatus for the fire department. The current 70-foot aerial truck, though in relatively good shape, is currently 4 years old and is due for replacement in the Capital Improvement Plan. At this time, council could take action to authorize the Manistee Fire Department to pursue the 2021 Fema grant for a new 100-foot aerial platform apparatus, along with any required matching funds. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Sure, we want to listen. We want to listen to this.
I don't have anything to say unless you have questions.
Can I get a clarification on who the second was? Grabowski, okay, thank you.
Mark, you talk about absorbing the match, but you don't see what the matches are, and who's writing the grant for you? And how
This
much
would
is
still
that?
be Robert Dack who did our prior. It's 5% match, and then I didn't get a concrete on his percentage. Usually it's, I believe it's another 5%, but those are usually lower funds, where this is, purchase here would be a very excessive amount. It'd be about a $1.3 million purchase.
Will he give you a quote for that match?
Yes, that would definitely be done before anything we agreed and went into. The reason this came about was because just, it was last week, they extended the FEMA grant into January 21 of 22. So that allowed us to get a little bit more put together and to go forward. And the reason they did that, they didn't have that many applicants in, and there is an excessive amount that's been added to this year, close to 100 million extra that's been put into it. And this was about the most opportune time to get this on. This is not something normally that, the likelihood of getting aerial trucks purchased through one of these FEMA grants, it's, the margins are narrow. It happens, and boy, if we can get into it and get an opportunity, that's great, so.
We're not partnering with anybody else with this?
Currently, this is for the city of Manistee only. Yep, and this is kind of quickly put together after finding out the day before the ending of it that they had put an extension to it, so. I'd definitely come forward back and give more updated details on percentages. This is mostly to look forward for us to get approval to go forward and to pursue this.
You say that the total purchase price is gonna come in around 1.3 million, or is
That's
it?
that's roughly the price of a truck today, of a ladder truck, that we're looking at. We have some kind of restrictions of what we can fit into it, but that's looking at a platform truck with, to describe a platform truck, has the bucket on, straight stick ladder.
Is that the same model that was demonstrated here a few years ago?
That was the straight stick ladder, and that's probably slightly less in cost. It's probably right around the 900,000 range. Each year they're going up, every year that goes on, these things increase in cost, so. But similar to that, yes, and that one did fit in the station. That's kind of one of the criteria we have to follow too.
But this is not the same model? It's
Not
just-
exactly the same model, no.
But it will fit in the station.
That would definitely be made sure of before anything was done.
You wanna build a canopy out the front? You wanna build a canopy out the front?
It'll be
And the garage door goes up and down?
It will go up and down, yeah, yep.
So-
We're getting to that point in the station and in the size of apparatus that it'll be tight, but that's part of the beast with the station that we have, and we want to make sure that works together, so.
So besides the 70 feet, you want to go to 100, you say it's in relatively good shape and it's 24 years old. Those are the only criteria you want to...
Yeah, right now, we're not having anything drastically major wrong with the truck. The guys take great care of it. It looks in good shape. You walk in the station, look at it, it looks really good. Just that the fact that it's 24 years old, it's meeting beyond the NFPA, which is more of a guideline. We're looking at it coming up on its 25-year changeover cycle. I just looked at this as being the perfect opportunity to try and get that. If we can get it and end up us only having to put 100,000 or whatever, that 70 to 100,000 towards it, that's a huge win in the big picture, because otherwise this is not a funded project that's in the motor pool. We'd be having to go out to a millage or something of that nature, or then partnering with other. So there's a bigger process to this. So if this could go through, we would be much further ahead.
What are we gonna do with the old one?
Go ahead.
There's lots of options. We can either outright sell it, trade in, or something along that line, but
Sorry, Mr. Kowalski. Did you want to ask something? Oh, that was your question.
I don't really have an idea of what that value would be in a return for it, but it is in relatively good shape. It's passed all of its fire pump tests and its ladder tests, so
Would any of our townships need something like that?
it's possible. It's possible.
Well, you'll certainly let them know of
But yes, most definitely, most definitely.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Ready for
Heather,
roll
could you
call?
take?
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Mayor Beaton.
Yes,
Councilmember Bachmann.
Yes.
Motion approved.
thank you. Consideration of approving a drinking water asset management grant. The city successfully applied for a drinking water asset management grant in the amount of $606,932. The funds will be utilized for continuing work on the city water asset management plan and to assist in identifying water service materials. There is no required match. At this time, council could take action to approve the $606,932 drinking water asset management grant from the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, and authorize DPW Director Jeff McCullough to sign the agreement. Do I have a motion? Okay, second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? And exactly how do you propose this money is going to be allocated? What are we going to do with it?
Maybe Sean, you can come up to.
It's basically broken down into two categories. One is the asset management program. So it will continue our previous efforts to physically locate all the curb stops in the city, mains, valves, hydrants, sizes, materials, and all of those are being put into a database in the GIS so that they're readily usable and accessible. It will also, the second part of it is what's called a DSMI, the Distribution System Material Inventory, and that is the new requirement that Eagle has put out that requires communities to identify what all of the service leads are made, the materials that they're made from. And there's actually 4 different points. The connection point at the water main, the section from the water main to the curb stop, which is the city's portion, the segment from the curb stop to the house or dwelling or other structure, that's the private side, and then what material is it once it enters the house. So they're split about 50-50 between those two categories.
Okay. Do we get that money all at once, or does it come in batches?
That's reimbursable, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
as it's spent, it's reimbursed.
Gotcha. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Thanks, guys. Heather? Yep, go ahead.
Councilmember Bachmann.
Yes.
Mayor Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan. Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of authorizing the purchase of 14 self-contained breathing apparatus for the Manistee Fire Department. The City of Manistee Fire Department pursued a Fema grant for the purchase of 14 new self-contained breathing apparatus to replace the current outdated air packs to the current standard. The department was successful in its application and was awarded the Fema grant in the amount of $93,330. Phoenix Safety Outfitters was the only applicant of 5 vendors to provide a sealed bid. Phoenix Safety Outfitters previously provided a detailed quote, which will be honored in the amount of $92,785.69. At this time, council could take action to authorize the Manistee Fire Department to purchase 14 new self-contained breathing apparatus from Phoenix Safety Outfitters for $92,785.69, utilizing the FEMA grant. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. You're back.
Any questions? The reason why it came back, this was out in November 16th, so I'll just give them clarification.
Right.
It was my first FEMA grant going through. I went through the process and utilized quotes, and after talking to the city manager, it was thought it'd be a little better practice using sealed bids, which I agree, and learning from this process, went back and did the sealed bids. Probably looking at the reason that one was the one, I actually expected 2, just the one came back from Phoenix. The other vendors already had, somewhat knowledge of how this was, working out, and they didn't apply, and no other sealed bids came in. So fortunately, the one that did come in, they were our original desired company, and they had the lowest bid or quote at that time as well.
So I'm thinking about the agreement that we've signed with Munson to do the training. Are there going to be enough for those people?
This is only worn by our
Okay,
people. The people that are doing the agreement with Munson, those are only students that come along. They're never asked to, that's not even in their scope or their work, I guess. They would be more, if the fire was to go on while they're with us, they'd be kept in the ambulance off to the side, and they can monitor and watch, but it's not, they're not partaking in this. Us having the 14 packs gives us more than enough packs beyond our staffing levels.
two apiece, right?
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Example where pictures would be good to see what you, do you have, must have some brochures.
They do, and I will, learning from that, I will provide stuff like that.
But I think it would help.
It'd be,
Nothing wrong with kindergarten level.
yeah.
This is a first grade teacher, right?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what's gonna happen with the existing,
We'll
scuba?
follow the FEMA criteria of what we can do to get rid of them. Those probably have to be taken out, definitely they'll be taken out of service, because a couple of them are out of service currently. They're decommissioned. The other 12 will be gotten rid of. The tanks may be able to be given away or done something with. There's still probably a little bit of life in them, but those actually have a 15-year lifespan on them as well, so they probably have about a 3 to 5 year life left in them, so.
How many men are we dealing with at the fire?
Currently, the reason why there's 14 is NFPA goes by truck and seats. So that's what, following the, what our grant writer, Robert Dack, put together was for how many seats we have on our vehicles. So we only have 8, including myself, full-time firemen, along with a few of the crossover police. So there's more than enough packs combined together to cover the guys that we have in the station.
If something goes out of service, you got a spare.
Exactly. And we keep them on, we also keep 2 on each ambulance as well, so that if we run into a situation where we have high carbon monoxide or any other type of environment, we can have those readily available while those 2 guys are out there on that scene.
Well, thanks, Mark.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes,
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Bachman.
Yep.
Mayor Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of applications to boards and commissions. The city clerk has taken action to advertise vacancies on the Board of Review, Compensation Commission, Harbor Commission, Historic District Commission, Parks Commission, Pay Commission, and Tree Commission. Nominations for city appointments do not require a second. After all the nominations are made, council votes on the nominees until one nominee receives a majority vote. The following applications have been received. Peg Commission, 5 vacancies, 2 terms ending 12/31/23, 3 terms ending 12/31/24, starting 12/31/21. Applicants must be Manistee County residents, council appointment.
I'd like to nominate Barry Lind at 532 4th Street for one of the terms ending 12/31/24.
Okay.
We do them, or do we have to do them singly?
You can do them single.
We'll do them singly, yep. Okay. So, Councilmember Bachman.
Yes.
Mayor Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Nomination approved.
The second one?
Yep.
I'd like to nominate Mike Tillotson, 2700 Nelson Street, Manistee.
For which term?
Two-year term, yeah,
Which one, ending when?
24.
Okay. Councilmember Bachmann. Mayor Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Nomination approved.
Thank you. Notices, communications, announcements. A report from the city clerk and the city manager. A regular part of each council meeting is a report from a cooperating agency, organization, or department. At this time, Ms. Heather Peffley will report on the activities of the city clerk's office and respond to any questions the council may have regarding their activities.
All right, I think I have it up there. Hey, well, good evening. Since I was not able to give my annual report to council last year, I've combined the activities for the clerk's department for 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
It's been a busy couple of years, so we'll get started. So as you'll see, our department employees, it's myself and Deputy Clerk Laura Lorraine, and then also the election inspectors. I've been with the city for 21 years. I've been city clerk. It'll be 4 years in January. Laura has been with the city almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years come March of 22. And we have approximately 35 election inspectors currently in our pool. And we serve as part of the Administrative Services Department. We work closely with the Finance Department. A number of our duties and core functions do overlap with that department. The Clerk's Department is responsible for a wide range of functions, some of which I've listed on the next two slides. Over the last 2 years, our big focus has been elections. It's kind of overrun our duties, it seems. It's been our big focus on top of our regular duties, such as payroll, accounts payable, business registrations, marina open space rentals, banner permits. As you can see, there's a lot listed there. I'm not going to name them all, but you can see there's a lot posted and much more on top of that I didn't list. Elections. We had an unprecedented 7 elections in 2 years. Saying it, I still don't believe it. And then to say we had that on top of during a global pandemic. And I still can't believe it. I couldn't have done it without Deputy Clerk Laura Lorraine. She was a huge, huge help, and all the election inspectors, they were amazing. I definitely could not have done it without them. And I looked back, and we've never had 7 elections in that short of a period of time. So it's crazy. But we did it. Some highlights to go, just a few. We purchased a new tabulator for processing AV ballots. We generated a lot more absentee ballots due to the passing of Proposal 3 in 2018. Our permanent AV voter list went from approximately 800 absentee voters to over 2,200 since that law has passed to allow for no reason absentee voting. The additional tabulator was a great asset during the 2020 election year and made it possible for us to have all of our ballots tabulated by the end of election day for the November 2020 election. And we were able to report our results to the county without delay. So that was a great asset for our counting board. We had a new drop box installed at City Hall for the receipt of AV applications and ballots, and also for various payments and correspondence to be done through contactless delivery. During COVID, it made it really nice. Council also approved for us to be closed at City Hall on Election Day for non-election related business. This has proven to be a huge help. We were able to train city employees to be city election inspectors to fill in the gaps as precinct workers. We were able to then allow us to do same-day registrations at City Hall. One of us has to be there, either myself or deputy clerk, to do those same-day registrations, and people will come in and they'll register to vote, and they'll want to vote absentee right there, or they'll take their receipt to a polling location and vote. November 2020, I had somebody register to vote at 7:58 p.m. and they registered to vote and they voted right then. And I delivered their ballot up to the AV counting board, and so it was right up to the last minute. So it did help though, because we didn't have to worry about taking in payments or doing anything else during the day. It was just strictly election work, which was a big help. Also, we transitioned to remote work during the shutdown, which we were able to seamlessly maintain all of our tasks without interruption and work from home, alternating our time in the office. We found creative ways to get the job done. As you know, we successfully transitioned to Zoom meetings, council meetings, various boards and commissions, although I must say that I do much prefer meeting in person and seeing everybody here. It was cumbersome, and I did facilitate my first meeting that ended on a different day than it started. So
I think I remember that.
I think you were there.
I think you were there.
Some other highlights, we had 36 election inspectors that completed mandatory election training. A lot of them did it virtually, some did do it in person. This coming year, 2020, is a new year. They do need to be recertified, so we will be having training again. Probably at the county, they said May, June-ish is when they'll be doing that, so letters will be going out to the election inspectors. I hope that they all decide to train again. We performed a statewide risk limiting audit after the November 2020 election. That went really well. And then, as you all know, we did successfully transition to the new polling location at the Wagoner Center. We have both precinct 1 and 2 located there. So far, it's gone really well, and I think come up to midterm election year, I think we're going to see that work out really well. People won't have to wait outside, a lot more space. I think it's going to go really well. More parking. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out next year. We did receive a certificate of recognition from the Secretary of State for our work in 2020. And as I stated earlier, this would not have been received had it not been for the deputy clerk and all the election inspectors. They were a huge help, and we could not have done it without them. Voter turnout, I just want to quick go through this so you can see how things transitioned in 2020. So March was a presidential primary. This was before we locked down. As you can see, it was pretty much even. Pre-pandemic, it was almost evenly split between AV and in person. Then May 2020, it was a vote by mail election per executive order. So the polling locations were closed and the only in-person voting was done at City Hall. So voters could come in and they could vote through an absentee voter ballot. I think we only had maybe a dozen people at the most come in that day. August 2020 was mostly AV ballots. We had a few people, that did come into the polling locations. We had a 95% return rate on AV ballots in November. I skipped ahead, sorry. November we had over 2,200 AV ballots. We had 1,200 in person, but we did have, this is really 95% return rate on our AV ballots for the November election. That was excellent. So, and because the 5% that didn't come back, a lot of those people did end up going in person to vote. So they ended up turning in their AV ballots in person and voting in person. So then we'll jump to 2021. We had the school election in May. As you'll see, the majority of that was AV. In August, we had the college election. We only had 68 people come in person. And then in November, we had the city general election, and still, again, the majority was absentee voting. So that was the turnout there. Upcoming elections, May is a held date. I don't foresee us having one, but it is a held date for a tentative election. Then we have the state primary August 2nd and the state general November 8th. Business registrations, 2020 was a pretty light year as expected. We only had 9 business registrations. In 2019, we had 12. I'm not gonna go through them, but they're there. 2021, we bounced back. We had 22 business registrations. So they're all listed there. It was a busy year. Coming soon. I've already gotten the application, but Fracano's has turned theirs in. They're tentative May of 22. So that's exciting. And I did just post our procedures for business registration. We like to have them contact planning and zoning first, and then contact the fire department, and then come to me. That doesn't always happen that way, but it is nice if they do, start with that procedure, so that they know that the location that they want to open up in is approved by planning and zoning before they come to me and then realize that it's not an approved location. Marijuana facilities, we have several now that are licensed. The application and review and licensing for marijuana facilities was a big undertaking for the clerk's office. It's a long process, time consuming, and the licenses renew on an annual basis and require renewal applications and review and signatures from building, police, and fire. It's quite a long process. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing this evening because I know we've got a lot still ahead of us. But they're all listed. We have currently 3 medical provisioning centers that are licensed. We have 5 recreational retail that are licensed. And then I'm gonna go to the next slide. We have 2 provisional permits issued for medical grow, 2 for medical process, and then 1 recreational grow and 1 recreational process they're all in the provisional. They have not received their final licenses yet from the state. And they're all listed there. Education and training, 2020, we didn't really get to go to a whole lot, but we did do a couple virtual. And then 2021, you'll see that Laura went to her Basic Institute, her 3rd year. I was able to go to the International Institute for Municipal Clerks. It was the first time in 30 years that they had it in the state of Michigan, so I was actually able to go. They had it at the Van Andel Arena. I will tell you that clerks know how to socially distance. They had us very far apart from each other. But we were spread way apart. It's normally you'll have clerks from all over different countries, but it was strictly United States this time. But it was a really good experience. I'm working towards my master's municipal clerk certification. I currently have my CMC, so I'm working for my master's. I have and Laura is working towards her CMC right now. So yeah, these are all the trainings that we went to. It's been busy, and we enjoy all the educational opportunities that we get with the city. And with that being said, Laura did successfully complete her 3rd year of the Michigan Municipal Clerks Institute and received her Michigan Professional Municipal Clerk certification. And I just want to congratulate her. That was a 3-year course that she did have to delay due to COVID, but was able to finish finally this year. And I just want to congratulate her. And with that, I'll take any questions.
What's your favorite part of the job?
Oh my goodness. There's a lot of things, but I think a lot of it is the people. And just getting to work with the residents and all of you and everybody in the city. I've had several different jobs within the city. I started with utility billing, then went to payroll, and then accounts payable, deputy clerk, and then now clerk. And clerk was not on my radar in the beginning, and I didn't know if it was something I wanted to do, and I love it. There's so many different things I get to learn about the city, and yeah, I enjoy it.
Well, it shows.
Thanks.
So thank you for your report.
Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions? All right. The city manager's office annually approves a comprehensive review of calendar year activities. That review provides city council and the community an opportunity to step back from day-to-day operations and take a longer look at what has been accomplished during the year. At this time, Mr. William Gamble will present the 2021 City of Manistee highlights.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm honored to continue the tradition of presenting the annual highlights to City Council the last meeting of the year. Council members should have this booklet in front of them, and then there's some for audience members over here. Also have some copies at the City Manager's office, if anyone would like to pick one up. Kind of an overview of the City Manager's office. I began here as City Manager in Manistee on September 13th. Thank you to Ed for carrying the torch as interim leading up to my arrival. Kelly McCall is the Executive Secretary. I appreciate her efforts putting together the 2021 highlights booklet that this presentation is based on. It's a very comprehensive look at all the accomplishments of the city over the year 2021. The City Manager's office is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the city. This includes, but is not limited to, setting the council agendas, contract negotiations, city and citizen communication, strategic planning, and implementing council goals. And we'll be doing more strategic planning with the ARPA money in the coming months. Look forward to that. Some of the booklet, the 2021 highlight booklet, is a comprehensive list of accomplishments. As I mentioned, the booklet is divided into the following sections: construction, governance, community, economic development, operations, and you have the director of officials on the back. Over the 2021 fiscal year budget, City Council adopted a $6.4 million balanced budget on May 5th, 2021. We have a healthy fund balance of $1.86 million, as the auditor mentioned earlier. There's no millage increase. The water and sewer rates were increased 3.5% to keep those funds healthy. I'd like to thank Finance Director Ed Bradford for all his work on the budget, and I'm looking forward to the budget process starting in this next year. The city had some substantial construction projects this last year. The USDA Rural Development Low Interest Loan funded 2 projects, the conveyance and also the clean water recovery facility improvements. The conveyance was a $3.9 million project that eliminated a combined sewer overflow with a new 48-inch sanitary sewer from the SSO location of 5th and Ramsdale to the clean water facility. The phase 2 is a $12.3 million upgrade to the clean water recovery facility. It includes new headworks and construction of 6 million gallons of above water ground storage, and it's quite a sight to see. We have some pictures later. We also had, dealing with the damage from the high water, $1.9 million worth of repairs, dealing with the high water erosion to the Riverwalk and the retaining wall from the overlook, and then $1.2 million of street reconstruction, water main, and sewer. So here's just kind of a picture of that phase 1 48-inch conveyance. And thank you to Spicer and Jeff for the pictures. This eventually led to that jack and bore under the railroad tracks, and Councilwoman Pontiac and I saw that occur, but it was quite a project. And it's still, we have the phase 2 here. And just to give you an idea, that The top left is the new headworks building. And then on the right, you see kind of the underground headworks leading into the building and connecting the conveyance on the, so basically that chamber on the bottom of that picture is where that conveyance attaches into, and that's the grit separation area. And then you have the new above ground storage area tank at the bottom picture. This is the riprap revetment along the Riverwalk on the left. And then if the other picture on the right, you can see that new Ready Rock retaining wall on the right side of the photograph. So these are the road reconstructions. They included water main, sewer. Top left and bottom are Jackson Street. And you can see the dark colored dirt, talking with Jeff, that dark area is sawdust fill, so presumably from the nearby lumber yard. But there's quite a bit of fill taken out, and the top picture on the right is 8th Street. So thank you to Jeff McCula, Sean and his group at Spicer, and the contractors. These projects turned out nice. Okay. So governance. As we heard the city clerk's presentation, she consolidated 2 precincts at the Wagner Center. These are just some highlights. Kind of a more efficient use of space, a larger area. This officially started with the August 3rd election. This year, the Manistee Police Department began the accreditation process. Appreciate the chief's efforts for moving that forward. And then we mentioned today the Drinking Water Asset Management Grant that we were recently awarded, and council approved the signing of the grant tonight. Very timely. As mentioned, it'll help the city gather information and help prioritize improvements, along with a rate study to figure out the appropriate way to fund those improvements. Community development, the DDA implemented dining platforms to help the restaurants with more outdoor dining during COVID. Council also approved a social district in the downtown. This year, Manistee welcomed and hosted the Princess at the Marina. They offer various tours at the Manistee Harbor, from the Manistee Harbor. In the city of Manistee has received local revenue sharing board funding for public safety improvements. Chief Cameron and the fire department received rope safety equipment, as well as Lucas compression devices. The police department received funding for body cameras and patrol jackets. So we're very appreciative of this funding source over the last 20 years. And here's a picture of those dining platforms I mentioned right outside of talk about it. So here's a list of the new businesses that opened in 21. As clerk mentioned, we had quite a few, so we appreciate the chamber's efforts. We're very happy these businesses chose Manistee, and also the planning department for helping these businesses go through the process to open in Manistee. And some of the operational highlights, kind of talk about the city auctioned off some older equipment and vehicles that were no longer in use. Received $48,000. Networks Northwest helped spearhead and worked with the city and other local governments in the county to update the 5-year master plan. City Council recently approved that. This makes the city eligible to receive various MD&R grants. So we'll be looking to apply for those. And then city budgeted, and the fire department purchased a new ambulance. It was pushed into service early September, I believe September 2nd. And the police department, Chief Glass serves on the Manistee School Safety Advisory Board, so we appreciate his efforts working with the schools to keep them safe. And here's a picture of the push-in ceremony with the fire department, new ambulance. Wrapping up, here's a Kendra from the 5th Street Beach Concession Took this picture at the Sleigh Bell Parade. That turned out pretty nice, so we put that at the end, but thank you, Kendra, for this picture. There's a great deal of information in this highlight book. Please look through it. Special thanks to all the city employees, city council for their contributions in making all these accomplishments happen. With that, I'll take any questions the council has. Thank you.
It's been a good year. All things happening, it's been a really good year, both the clerks, the finance, everybody. It's been well done. Congratulations, and thank you for all your hard work, the entire staff.
Yeah.
Police, fire, DPW, clerk, fire, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for coming back for a second interview.
Thank you.
I second that. Thanks, everyone, for all the work it took this year to do what we had to do. I think it's good to take a moment to celebrate and to see what we've done.
Okay, moving on. Citizens' comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on municipal services, activities, or areas of city involvement. Citizens in attendance shall be recognized by the mayor for comments limited to 5 minutes. Letters submitted to council will not be publicly read.
Yeah, hi, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Phil Morse, and I'm here from New Era, Michigan, 1921 Oak Avenue. It's a very fitting conversation about city clerk tonight because I'm running for state representative in this area. If you're familiar with the redistricting that's coming up around, maybe you're not, so I gave you a little tutorial here. So right now you are in the, I don't remember what district number you're in, but you're in where Jack O'Malley is your representative, as you guys know. He is not going to be in your district next year because the district is going to be northern Muskegon County, most of Oceana County, most of Mason County, and the southwest corner of Manistee County, at least as of right now. It's not official yet, but that's the last few drafts have been, that has been the district. So that's the 102nd district probably. So I am, like I said, I'm interested and very interested in running for state rep, and I want to introduce myself. I'm currently the principal at New Era Christian School in New Era. I live on the school grounds. I'm kind of like it's like the parsonage of the school. And then, you understand, you're a teacher, is that what I heard? Okay, great, education, all right. I'm also on the Oceana County Board of Commissioners, so I get a lot of the, I can understand some of the, I saw 100-some pages in your packet tonight, so I understand how that can happen too. But it's audits are good things. Anyway, just I feel like I'm the reason I'm running is I'm wired in a way where I have a balance of being a very principled person, not just a principal, but principled. As far as I'm a Christian, I'm a constitutionalist, I am a conservative. So I take those principles that I live by, but then I also, and I also want to compromise those. So those are non-negotiables for me, but then there's times when you can negotiate on things that don't compromise your principles. And so that's who I am. I mean, I like to ask lots of questions and ask good, powerful questions because I think there's so much value in that. So that's where I feel like I've been wired in a way to make an effective policy maker. My number one priority is education. It just fits, right? I think it also impacts way more than just education, but I think we need an overhaul, like in our educational system in our state. And I just feel like we're bleeding teachers, like they are leaving in droves and there's not near enough to be replacing them. And there's a reason for that. Well, we got to figure out what that reason is. Now I have my ideas, and but I think that we need to ask teachers, ask superintendents, ask principals, ask parents, what can we do better in education in this state and move forward, because that will impact when I think about the number of skilled trades that we need right now. I mean, we can't build in Oceana County. We need homes. I'm learning about Manistee County. I'm assuming that's probably the same case here. But we need builders, we need plumbers, we need, all the fill in the blank, but they don't necessarily need to go to college to do that. So I just wonder if there can be a different system in our education. Of course, we need kids graduating from high school, and going to college, of course. But my concern is my 5 minutes almost up here. Sorry, but that's my concern. So there's got to be alternative ways to look at education in our state. That's the bottom line of what I'm talking about. So that's what I'm going in with a passion for. I want to get on the K-12 committee and make a difference there. So thank you. I will sit in the back and wait till the meeting is over, and then I'll hand these out for those of you that will want to accept this, and as my website on it, my priorities and that sort of thing. So thanks for listening.
Thank you. Anybody else? Moving on to officials and staff. Mr. Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple updates. The county approved the commercial rehabilitation district for the Hampton Inn project, 6-1. They didn't need to, but they did choose to vote on it. The next step is receiving the developer's application and then setting the public hearing and council action on that application. So I think there's a timeline to receive that in the next 60 days. Then after that, assuming it goes forward, it would go to the State Tax Commission for approval. The brownfield for the Hampton Inn, that application was received. The Brownfield Authority is scheduled to act on that on the 11th of January. After that, it would come before council in a public hearing and for council action on the 18th. So just wanted council to be aware of that timeline. Also received an update about the 55 bridge. It's scheduled to open, they're thinking late December, but probably the beginning week of January. So looking for that to open soon. I know it's been a long time in this area. And then Merry Christmas to everyone. That's my other comment. Thank you.
Mr. Saylor.
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. City Finance Director.
Just one thing, I think that the Brownfield Authority is going to be on the 10th, not the 11th. There was a conflict for somebody, so that's kind of where we already had that plan.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
City Engineer.
Nothing, Your Honor. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. Lucas, you're here. I don't know why, but I'm glad to see you. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for coming. Mr. McCula, DPW.
Nothing tonight. Happy holidays to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Same to you. Police Chief.
I don't have anything, Your Honor. Have a great holiday.
Fire Chief.
Just want to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you for all your service. We appreciate it. With that, I will take a motion to, oh, no, I won't. Mr. Bachman.
Just again, thanks to all our staff for a great year and for doing a wonderful job. We appreciate it. I know it's not always expressed, but we do appreciate all your hard work and happy holidays.
I don't have any.
Nothing. Hope everybody has a good holiday.
I just wanted to know anything about the Maple Street Bridge. Do we know a date that's going to start?
We don't have a date yet. The bids were let by MDOT, and the low bid was about 40,000 below the engineer's estimate, so about 5% low, so we're in good shape there. The contractor and the state are working on setting up the pre-construction meeting where the contractor will deliver their start date and their schedules. Just found out last night that there's still an agreement that the city needs to execute with MDOT, so on your next council agenda, I'll have that before you for a resolution authorizing it to be executed. Pretty standard language. The city attorney's already reviewed it, so we should know in the next couple weeks. Roughly, we anticipate end of January, early part of February to begin, but we're not sure when it's actually going to close. So.
I think, Jeff, in the contract, March 31st, because of the shipping, they have to have at least the bridge back in operations.
March kind of window.
And we'll get that, once we get that information out, we'll get that heavily publicized because it'll be some pretty substantial traffic impacts on the community.
And then you were gonna look into getting, to see if we can get the water test results to us instead of asking for the form from the residents. Did you get anything from that?
Yeah, well, I think talking with Bruce Banks about it, it is considered their own test, so they won't share it with us just without the homeowner's consent. So we're not just automatically gonna get it.
That's it. Jim?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was up at the recycling trailer today, and I said, I think for every week I go up there, somebody is throwing big pieces of styrofoam in there. And I think we've told them how many times not to do that, and I know the papers printed it. And every week there's a big bunch of styrofoam. So I'm sure that's not gonna be happy for you. So Jeff-
Is it in the cardboard trailer?
No, in the
Recycle.
recycling cans. and
Okay.
bottles. Yeah. Okay, you answered my question about the Fifth Street, Fifth Street and Ramsdale Street and 7th Street, so we got that answered for July. Have we ever got a hold of that company with that, on 12th Street, with that bump in there, because it's gonna start getting tore up by the prowls when they come through? You are the, I'll call them, I'll keep on their ass, because this is ridiculous. Because somebody's gotta do something with that, because you can hear the bump when the people go over it. And I don't wanna see the road all tore up, now that it got fixed. Okay, then I want, Mr. Manager, have you got a hold of the safe bill after we talk?
Yes, I've talked with them several times, and I think they, for whatever reason, one inspector went and did, I think, about 14 stop work orders, so I'm kind of questioning the timing on that and why it had to be done now, but I am looking into that, and I've been meeting with, the people who've been filing complaints with me, and I've also spoke with Glenn several times, and I called him, he was getting on a plane, I plan to talk with him again tomorrow about it, but I'm trying to figure out why it had to be right now where they did that. And I would like more of a heads up when something like that's gonna happen and coordinate it and let people know this is coming. And so that's kind of the things I'm talking to him about.
Okay, well, I know I went and I think I told you that I went up and settled an argument on Fairview when the gentleman got into it. I mean, they were getting hot, so it's a good thing I should have. And finally the gentleman admitted he had stuck a permit on the window in a windstorm, and it blew down and fell in the water, and the guy found it, and so he was upset over that, and didn't have an address where to call. So, that started out the whole thing. And the guy finally admitted then that, yeah, I ride around, and when I see something, I paste something on a window, and of course then the gentleman got in reporting everybody that's houses that falling apart or doing repairs without permits. So I think they need to set down how they're gonna do it. I know he explained it to us, but it didn't seem like he was working very good with the people, because he brought up about windows and all that, and these guys told about how he didn't need permits and did permits, and so, and I know when I went through with my roof that they didn't do a very good job, so it's really kind of crazy. I think they have to work with the people, and I talked to people today, a couple people, and people aren't happy with this group. I don't know what they're doing wrong when they go up to the door, but they should be contacting the people and talking to them.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I felt like we were getting in a better place with communication, and I think this was a step backwards, so.
Because when he came up and explained everything, I thought, well, maybe the gentleman between the mechanical and the roof repairs and house repairs and that he had everything arranged to get it done right. Now we're arguing again.
So I am sorting through that, over the last couple days, and I will continue to be.
That's why I told people to call you, a lot of people to call you, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Bradford, again, just a shout out to you, your staff, for not just the audit, but all the work that it takes leading up to it. The thousands and thousands of documents that you have to pour over. And again, and a thank you to all of the management people out there that are managing all of our department heads. for maintaining the budget and working to maintain the budget. It's not easy, and I think you've done an incredible job. And again, thank you, Heather, for all the work. It's good to have you on board, Bill, and I think Manistee is a better place for all of the work that you're doing. And just want to wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
I have a question for Mr. Gamble, and maybe Jeff can think about this too. Trace Laboratories is doing the water testing for copper and lead. Why can't we have on the application form, a question? Can you, are you willing to share your results with the city, yes or no? So that we could go back to Trace and say, hey, give us all the people that said yes. Is that something we could implement, or is that already being done? I filled out an application, but I don't even remember if there was a question like that on there. So,
We can look into it.
having good data would really be helpful. Well, I look forward to seeing you all next year. So I wish you all happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Jeff, how is the rock holding up at the beach that you did all the work down there on?
It weathered 2 really big storms in the past few weeks. Some of the splash, there was some of the soil right above the new stone revetment was impacted from the splash from the waves because we don't have restoration yet. The dune grass hasn't grown. And so actually we're having the contractor go and add some small stone along the top of that. I believe they're gonna do it next week. So it'll just be that interim, so we don't have it washing out before everything gets established. But for the 2 storms that we had it makes me nervous when I hear these winds now, but and the direction and the wave buildup that we had, they performed very well.
But you could have surfed down the river the other day.
It's pretty amazing.
There were 3-foot waves rolling down the river.
Yeah, and there's design standards, and we go back and forth about this all the time, but what's really unique is because that harbor is sheet piled, if you get the right wave, the wave actually gets amplified by bouncing back and forth between the walls, and then where it lets out its energy is along that shoreline that was not protected before, and now it is. And we're quite a bit under budget too, so the engineers and the contractor both have done a very good job on that. Very proud of that project.
The damage at 5th Street Beach, is that gonna be covered by insurance?
To the roof,
Yeah.
I'm waiting on an estimate for that, but we're gonna submit it to the insurance, hopefully it is. We also had a lot of fence at the Public Works yard was blown off and poles bent, and so I just got an estimate on that, and we'll be submitting that also. All in all, the community fared pretty well. We only had a few trees down. The guys were more tied up with wires down than they were with trees, so I think the forestry work that we're doing, and actually the citizens reporting dead branches, dead trees, and working with the tree commission has been a good proactive approach and saves us a lot of hassle in those high wind events.
Thank you for picking up the branch that we had to cut up. So.
Yeah, I reported today in our staff meeting that we don't do brush this time of year. That has ended, but because of all the stuff that came down and the weather got a little bit milder, so people are able to get it back out. We've had a brush crew that's going around trying to keep up with that right now.
Good, because there was just some up on one of the streets, Cherry or someplace up there.
They're calling, the residents are calling, so.
Good.
I think so. Turn them in. Oh, we'd already done that. Good night, everybody.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, motion.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
was asking.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I did have like 40 shingles. I had Bob's.
Because it's in a